Okay, we'll get rocking and getting ready for the game. It's been a fun week, just in terms of the preparation and getting ready. Captains said we needed to be heavy hitters, and we certainly have them. So Terry McLaurin, Bobby Wagner, and Jeremy Reeves, are the captains for this game. And those guys, they could lead me anywhere. I'd be pumped about that. So they've meant a lot to our team and what we stand for and what we want to be about. And so I thought great recognition for them. So all that said, let's get rocking on things for today. We will rule out John Allen. So he had a really good week. I was very encouraged, and we're just going to keep, progressing to make the steps. I'd be encouraged heading into next week as we're going through it. But he did an excellent job. I was really impressed. So that's the only player we'll rule out.
Okay, and then just when you're looking at going up against them the second time, just how different do you anticipate them being against you guys with their defense and what they were trying to do against you guys?
Well, they certainly, were effective, but every game, John, it does play a little different. You don't just play it the same way, and when you're playing a team for the second time, always there's a few new looks and a few new wrinkles, and I think that's important because, when you're playing and practicing a team, you card up all the looks and what's there, and there's always a few nuances that are different. It's driven by the front for sure, defensively. They've got a big, deep crew, pass rush, acumen to them, and I thought the outside guys are playing strong. So when they're playing their, quarters where they're playing man-to-man and the rushers, that's when, they're at their best. So we'll have to certainly have good answers for third and fourth down going into the game. But they have a system, so it doesn't change too much, but how you feature the players and different D&Ds, and those are the things that usually change.
Joe Witt has said that in recent weeks that he hasn't given a lot of help to the cornerbacks defensively.
Right.
And obviously in a game here where you got going up against SAQUON Barkley, even with those receivers, that would seem to be a logical move. The fact that you have Lattimore, is that even – I don't know if you can lean in more to that, but does that lean even more to that kind of thinking?
Yeah, you have to, Ben. That's what makes part of, them unique. 11 and 6 and 26, those are combinations of people that are hard to defend. And so outside players, running back, 8-man fronts, or loaded boxes versus out and disguising to go do that. All those factor into it. And you want to be bold enough that you can, but it's not just, where you're playing like a wishbone here and like everything's in for the run, but it makes it challenging. And so the addition of SAQUON to them in an already good group has definitely made an impact because you have to pick and choose, and you'll also have to play and stop the run on some fronts that aren't everybody loaded down inside. So it's a good challenge, but we're able to lean in more for sure.
And, obviously I think league-wide people are pretty impressed with what you guys have been able to do here this year. In the context of the playoffs, the note is, well, they're 0-4 against teams that would currently be in the playoffs. The Eagles are an opportunity to
too much math already.
Eagles would be one of those teams. I guess I don't know if you've even considered things like that, but in terms of hey, I know you don't look ahead, but if we're going to compete, whatever that means down the stretch, these are the kind of games we have to win. It's no more just, hey, let's be competitive. We need to win this. Do you think in those terms at all?
Not in terms of the playoffs, Ben. I think what you're referring to is if you want to go from contender to heavy hitter, you got to beat some heavy hitters. So we don't think past that, no. But in terms of Philadelphia, they've shown this season in the NFC East, they are that, the heavy hitter. And you have to show that if you want to do that, you've got to beat teams that are capable of doing that. And so that's really where the focus is, not down the line, but just, really in this matchup for the NFC East. They've proven, that in the East this season so far that they're the ones.
I know we've asked you about Marshawn ad nauseum lately, but what is it about what he does in coverage specifically that makes him so tough to go against as a receiver? Yeah,
and it'll sound like, thanks, Captain Obvious, but he can really stay attached. And having the foot quickness, Dickie, to stay attached is a difficult thing to do because routes change, people try to double move, and so he's got excellent ability to stay connected. And so that kind of change of direction, ability to start and stop, that to me is one of the things that he just stays attached better than most do. He plays with good leverage. He knows, where to use help, and that kind of experience is a big deal. if I have outside leverage on a player, knowing I got help inside, he doesn't get beat outside. And those are the things that jump out. I love the competitive nature, honestly, that he has too. I'd say that alone probably carries a lot. Just saying, I'm going to challenge, I'm not going to be denied, and he's not a person that I'm going to play this, what's the word, more off or reserved. Like, he likes to challenge and be on, and so that suits our style too.
And to have him back there, does that change what you're able to do? I correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like with SAQUON in the run game, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith out there, like, you kind of have to pick your poison.
That's the hardest part, yes.
Yeah.
And you'll have to still use, bits of both to do that. And so that's what makes Philadelphia as challenging this year, is the ability of that to do that. So it helps us, yes, like, of course it does, because of the challenge. And the guys outside are ones. And so you want to have, the ability to go fight and challenge for it. And adding Marshawn to the group, those are the kind of fights that he's used to and accustomed to. And so, we're just looking for it. It's been great to have him. He got to learn for a few weeks, even though it was uncomfortable not having him play. Because as a new player, you want to be able to, express to your teammates you're in with them and going. And so it was harder at first when he was in the rehab process. But to see him put the pads on last week, the head was not, and you could feel his energy and intent to go play. And I love that.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon.
Last time you guys played the Eagles, I remember vividly your offensive line was not happy with the way that they were able to run block
Correct.
against that defense and weren't able to kind of force them to do things they don't want to do. How much, I know it's been a few weeks, but how much can that memory motivate a unit in this weekend?
It does, because we, feel like we've got more under the hood than what you displayed. And so I think anytime you want to prove it and it doesn't go, like you want it to, it can kind of go two ways, where like you're over trying and it's not going right, compared to this is how we want to play, run this, do this, be aggressive. And so finding that balance of that, I think that's the whole art of it all, playing great, being aggressive, being tough without thinking and over chasing stuff. And so they've got an excellent front. And so there'll be some dead plays, meaning 1 yards and zeros, but we're going to break some too. And that's the piece that you stay with it, you stay aggressive. And what we've been able to do on the games where time of possession and owning it, it happens a little longer down the field, during the game. That's part of what makes Philadelphia has been so effective, their ability in the second half to shorten the clock, to go. And so both sides in this game, the third and fourth downs, I think, will be critical, because those are some drives that continue. And so getting people on stops is going to be a big piece of this. And so both teams are good on fourth down, meaning us and them offensively, I'm speaking of. And so I think within the game, that's a big piece of this too.
And then can you share some thoughts on Carl Davis, the two games you guys have elevated him for, how you felt he's performed, especially in run defense?
Yeah, I thought he's really showing that veteran consistency inside. He can play square. He's got size. And so getting here, I had some experience with Carl before. I knew he would add value as we were going, especially, after John was injured. And so getting him into the mix and going, it was right to put that competition up for it. And so he's delivered on those ones. So, we've been pleased with what we've seen so far.
Hey, Coach, so when you're preparing for a game, whether it be this one coming up or one of the games that you all have already done, do you ever look at certain matchups and kind of, even for yourself, say, oh, that's going to be a good one?
Yes.
Short answer.
Lots of times. And it's kind of makes what's fun, and players do too, to say, boy, that's a good one. Whether you're talking about, Mikey and Lattimore and their receivers, the ability to tackle on Barkley, the matchups with Terry in different spaces. So, I think about that a lot. And I also do it on special teams, because these can then be some big plays, that go. And so, us, we like to cover and return and all the stuff that goes with that. So they have, some really talented special teams guys too. So there's lots of matchups that go into it that I like a lot. And I definitely prod that some weeks more than others. That's the art for the players to study. This is the person I'm going against. The coaches, they can handle the scheme and look for this coverage, watch for this pass route based on a formation. But the player study, man, I'm going to I'm going to know that stance. I'm going to know that alignment. I'm going to know where he puts his hands. That's, to me, is like, how do you really prepare? It's the coaching and the player study merging. And the best of the best, they get themselves ready for that player that they have to see.
And on Wednesday, I asked Jaden about how he's able to maintain his focus with just all of the accolades and everything that he's getting in his rookie season. So what have you seen and just your observations overall and how he's maintaining that focus?
For sure, before coming here, Candy, I thought one of the things that I really admired about him, maybe after he was here, not before in the pre-draft process, but I would say as we got into the season, I thought he had the right blend of confidence and humility. And I haven't seen that change one bit. And so I can remember last week we were having dinner and I was asking about like the Heisman voting process. And it was, something I'd never asked, a Heisman winner before. And of course, Marcus is at the same table. And so I asked the conversation for both of them, like, what does that look like? And so the fact that both of them, their humility, not advertising things, such as that, I think kind of in a very small way, Candy, speaks to their humility and their confidence, because they're able to handle a lot and not, look for the pat on the back. And I love the way they're early, they're intentional about their work, and they've got some pretty cool leaders around them that have shown that example. This team is close. It's remarkable, like their connection they've had. And so they're hard on each other in a good way. They have fun, make fun of one another. The Wagners and Jaden Daniel sit right next to one another in a team meeting. And if one picture's up, they'll be elbowing. It's just, there's a connection that the team has made. And I think that allows them, they know he's done well. And so no one inside the building's telling him extra. So they give him a hard time just like anybody else. And I think that's important. But confidence and humility, I noticed that pretty early on, a good blend of both. And I think to be a special player, you need those, because he doesn't ride a roller coaster of emotions that take place. You're welcome.
We saw Sam Cosmi, John Bates out there today. Looked like, just from the injury report, they were battling some illness.
Correct.
Tyler was sick this past weekend, kept him out of the game.
Yep.
Is there something going around? You got to be a
Yes.
little extra careful.
It's hard, man. We like in the submarine together, it's hard, but we try to be, as much as we can. But yeah, that does happen. And when, like most teams, you're just in close quarters together, and this person gets it, the next person does. So we don't know who patient zero was. There's a lot of discussion about that. So a lot of finger pointing at people in a fun-natured way. But yeah, that happens this time of year on any team. But yeah, we've battled through that too.
Just something that happens during Friday's practices that we see Jaden and David Blau, they kind of on their own. I don't know if you see it happening on the quarterback's field. They're playing like a game of quarterback pig or horse.
Yep.
And it gets pretty heated, and
Yes.
Coach gets him a few times. I don't know. Do you hear about that
Yes. Oh,
competition?
yes.
And please tell me what you hear.
Yeah, they do have some competitions on Friday in accuracy and throwing, and so oftentimes we make fun of Blau that he's a dome quarterback only, and so here it is in the snow. Is he going to be able to compete? And so we have a lot of fun on those days. And I even said to Jaden today, he's going outside. Thanks, Q, because we were going out. And so in his own way of like, I'm bundled up, thanks, Q. I said, that's right, man. You are the quarterback on the Washington Commanders. We're going outside. He laughed. But it was, like we go outside, when we can. Whether it was kind of fun, actually, to start off before even you guys got out there. It was snowing harder. And so it's part of it, learning how to play in cold. I mean, this is, how we play and what, winter football looks like. And so I never want them not to be able to practice in that. But yeah, they definitely have a lot of fun together. And it's just small examples like that make a big difference. They enjoy spending time together. The team does. And that's one thing that I've noticed from afar. That doesn't come from me. That's their connection, doing things together. And you might see a meal room after a team meeting, and they're there half hour after, just everybody hanging out, either watching a college game or doing those things when you're on the road. And that doesn't happen everywhere. And so I'm very grateful they understand the joy of being in a group, being on a team, and spending time together. So it's a big deal.
Time for one more. The Jaden Daniels Bobby Wagner relationship, I think is very cool, but also
Yeah, two California guys and two real competitors. But it's Bobby, in his very own unique way, mentors a number of people. And you might go down in the weight room on a Friday morning at 6 a.m. and you'd see him and 2 or 3 others with him, and trying to keep up, trying to follow some of those things. So he doesn't ask anybody to do that, but they're learning and trying, okay, something must be working there. So he does have a rare impact on this team. And so I've got a lot of gratitude for him of the trust to follow me here, not follow me, but to sign here, when I'm sure he had, plenty of options to do that. But that means a lot to me, because his standard is always one that I've said that's the standard. And so for him to, trust me enough to come, and there's a lot of unknowns, coming here, so that meant a lot to me, knowing that, he had a lot of trust in me as well.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, you guys have a good afternoon. We'll see you Sunday.
Hey, were either of those two guys into the 40 under 40 list?
We said last question.